What happened the first time Luke returned to Tatooine after destroying the Death Star? Why did he end up dueling Boba Fett in Obi-Wan Kenobi's abandoned hut? And what parting gift did Obi-Wan leave to Luke, the last hope for the Jedi Order? Today, we're going to answer these questions and a bit more. But before we do, let's talk about where Luke was on his journey to becoming a Jedi Knight, and why returning to Tatooine left such a lasting impression on him, confirming a scary suspicion that had haunted Luke since he left the planet, that it could never again be his home. Luke returned to Tatooine shortly after destroying the Death Star. Since then, he had gained fame and recognition from his fellow rebel fighters. He had always wanted to be a pilot and get off of his planet, so having realized his dreams, Luke should have been happier. But he wasn't. After meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi, his world expanded, and so did his role in it. He went from a somewhat simple desire to becoming a pilot to something grander, to becoming a Jedi Knight. But after the destruction of the Death Star, he had no idea where to turn to learn more. The only Jedi he had ever known had died in a duel with Darth Vader. Without Kenobi at his side, gently calming him when his anger and frustration got the best of him, Luke worried that he could never learn the true nature of the Force. With that, he decided to go to Obi-Wan's old home on Tatooine. Perhaps there he could find something, anything, that would teach him the ways of the Force. And that's where this story begins, on Tatooine. The scenic sweeping sands and beautiful vistas were all gone. In their place, a blistering hot sun, rocks and unshapely dunes surrounded the returning farm boy. Luke and R2 knew what to expect. As Skywalker reiterated his parting words to the planet uttered when he first left, "There's nothing for me here now." An atmosphere of exasperation propped up by dwindling hope engulfed the duo. However, Luke and his trusty counterpart weren't to be left alone for too much longer. Not far away, amidst the desolate rubble of Mos Eisley, none other than notorious bounty hunter Boba Fett, hired by the Empire, was hot on Luke's trail. And as brutal as the landscape they trudged through was, he stopped at nothing or no one to find the boy. Boba first stopped at the town's infamous watering hole, Chalmun's spaceport Cantina. Somehow its dank interior seemed more menacing than before. The nefarious faces of patrons were mostly unchanged during the galaxy-wide war. Boba scanned the room. His arms crossed, he took a look at all the patrons and offered them a way out. Before beating an answer from them, he allowed them one chance to do this the non-violent way. Just give him information about Luke, and Fett would be on his way. Nobody answered. Having no other choice, Boba started to get rough. He straightened out his arms, making a point to show off the rocket launcher on his forearm. With all the different gadgets mounted on his armor, his limbs were just as deadly, if not more, than his blaster. Fett pointed his forearm, and the rocket launcher mounted on top at an innocent-looking Lothorian, the iconic species known for having a hammerhead shark-like appearance. Boba threatened to kill him if he didn't offer intel on Luke. But before he squeezed his fist on the pressure-release trigger and made good on his promise, a taunt flew in from the back of the room. "Only boy I see is you, Fett." A giant, six-armed drunk approached Fett. At least 10 feet tall, the man was one of the toughest fighters in the Cantina, and a pretty big mystery. Nothing was written about his race in the Galactic Archives, but you wouldn't need to know much to figure out that he was a threat. Fett took one look at the man, and in the blink of an eye, threw him to the floor. He severed one of his arms and broke 3 others. Fett looks at the bar patrons, the myriad of lost souls, and told them he would continue breaking arm after arm until they gave him information about Luke. Being fed the same information with no name, Boba was ready to further attack the myriad of patrons, until he noticed the wide-eyed terror in an onlooking boy. Seemingly not too far from Luke in age, the boy could only take so much of the Cantina-wide interrogation the bounty hunter relentlessly carried out. Suddenly, he dashed for his life. Unflinching, Fett harpooned the young man and jolted him close, dragging him through the dirt and scum-laden floor of the Tawdry bar. As the bounty hunter began to question the boy, the empty desert night and Cantina goers are the only ones to hear his screams. Fett's persistence garnered results. Finally, the boy resigned, mentioning he saw Luke and Obi-Wan in the very same bar, looking to get off-world just days earlier. Fett pulled away. The boy, laid out on a table, battered and bruised, gathered himself to leave, even asking his aggressor for permission. Only after an alert on his comm systems, Boba agreed. However, the rare display of levity was indeed too good to be true. Just as the boy got up, Fett's blaster swung around and put a shot right in the boy's chest. As Fett exited, a new swirl of smoke and dust could be seen gathering, another to add to the emptiness of the desert. Unaware, Luke continued his pilgrimage to Ben's former home. Now nighttime, the consistent rays of purple that slightly broke through the sky seemed to signal a faint ray of hope for the former farm boy. Though things were about to get a lot hairier, at least the horizons were brighter. With only R2's robotic chirping to communicate with, Luke was in full contemplation. Would finding the home of his former friend and Jedi Master really bring enlightenment? What did he even expect to find? Before he could finish his thought, a Tusken Raider emerged seemingly out of nowhere to attack Luke. As if anticipating a battle in the desert, Skywalker quickly whipped out his lightsaber, sliced the bandit's staff in half, and that was just the beginning. Turning to Obi-Wan's former abode, Luke's vision of the structure was blurred by the swarm of Tusken Raiders storming toward it. Almost as a form of serendipity, the once purple-hued sky started changing to a less welcoming fiery red. Scaring off the scavengers wasn't the problem for Luke. The problem was that when his contemplating thoughts returned, they were focused on the anger and hate nearly unlocked within him by a mere presence of the Sand People, an anger that nagged at him, an anger that scared him. Upon entering Ben's house, the Jedi in training and his droid companion were greeted with little else than dirt and rubble. While R2 scoured the shack, Luke started to lose hope. Yet the astromech's droid's light came across a box. Elated, Luke read the inscription. Wait, does that say, for Luke? Before he had a second to process the discovery, a grenade barreled in through the archway, circumventing the rubble within. In a flash that blinded Luke, only smoke remained, revealing the origin of the projectile. Boba Fett. This confrontation was inevitable. The bounty hunter, in contrast to his relentless questioning earlier, seemed almost out of words. He had found his prey and wanted the job to be over, but not without a fight. Luke, still disoriented, attempts a punch, only to discover a metallic suit of armor on the other side. Almost disrespectful to the bounty hunter, Luke assumed the assailant was a stormtrooper. Remember, this was the first time he had ever encountered Boba. Besides the cool paint job, that armor isn't too different from an Imperial grunt. Hearing Luke refer to him as a poorly trained Imperial boot didn't even bother Boba. His ego wasn't an issue here. The Mandalorian kept his eye on his prize, the young Jedi apprentice, and prepared his handcuffs. However, Luke started to clock on to a bigger conspiracy. Noticing he was being kept alive, he spoke to Boba, or tried, but every sentence from the boy's mouth led to further attacks from Fett, until his lightsaber is ignited. Now Luke, confident in the Force, ignored Fett's taunts about not yet being a Jedi. Instead, he saw this as a form of Jedi training, a baptism by fire. The quippy one-liners now moved from Boba's mouth to Luke's, as did the tide of the fight as he regained strength. Luke kept Boba on the back foot for a while, swinging his lightsaber around Ben Kenobi's tiny hut, forcing the bounty hunter to improvise evasive maneuvers. The bounty hunter's words got to him, but it did little to break Luke's will. It was an even match. Luckily, a third party in the form of R2-D2 literally threw in the element of surprise that knocked Boba out. Obi-Wan's box. With the bounty hunter out for the count, the pair escaped to Luke's X-Wing, not dealing a death blow since it wasn't the Jedi way. Eventually, Luke began to regain his sight. When sitting in his X-Wing, he finally opened the box. Inside, he found a dusty, frayed book titled The Journals of Ben Kenobi. Luke found what he was looking for, but if it contained any answers remained to be seen. Luke's first time returning to Tatooine went much differently than expected. It certainly didn't feel like the home he had known for 17 years. The one where he, Aunt Beru, and Uncle Owen spent countless days around the kitchen table, talking about the year's upcoming harvest, or the friendly, welcoming Tatooine that had allowed Luke to race around its surface in his little hopper. No, its secrets were revealed. It was deadly. It was home to one of the galaxy's last Jedi Masters, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And now that the Empire knew that tiny detail, and the fact that Luke was his apprentice, Tatooine could never feel like home again.